Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's live reading from Ramayana, story of Lord Ram. We are reading from Yuddha, and at the moment the battle is being pursued between Lord Rama's camp and Ravan's camp. We'll resume from there. At this, Dhumraksha became filled with rage and began to ravish the monkey warriors so severely that two began fleeing in terror. Hanuman became enraged. He picked up a huge rock and hurled at Dhumraksha's chariot, smashing it to pieces. The Rakshas hero saved himself by jumping to the ground, while Hanuman continued on his rampage. Taking a mountain peak, Hanuman rushed at Dhumraksha. The Rakshas also came forward to meet Hanuman, deftly smashing him on the head with his club. But Hanuman hardly minded the blow. He hurled the mountain peak at Dhumraksha's head. The peak shattered the Rakshasa's limbs and he fell to the ground. Dhumraksha's army fled back to the shelter of Lanka, causing the enraged Ravan to send Vajradamshtra into the fight. The great Rakshas hero led his army to the southern gate. Where Angad was stationed. On the way he saw showers of meteors streaking across the sky, and ferocious she-jackals belched fire. Nevertheless, Vajradamshtra took courage and plunged into battle. Angad responded especially fiercely. He smashed the Rakshasa soldiers with an uprooted tree, and their entire army fled, with their general helplessly looking on. The enraged Vajradamshtra retaliated by killing innumerable enemy soldiers with his arrows, causing the monkeys to take shelter of Angad. As the son of Vali set out to confront Vajradamshtra directly, the Rakshas hero released 100,000 arrows that bathed Angad in his own blood. Angad struck back by hurling a huge tree, but Vajradamshtra easily cut it to pieces. Then, roaring loudly, Angad threw a huge mountain crag, forcing Vajradamshtra to jump to safety. As his chariot was smashed, taking advantage of this opportunity, Angad quickly took up another huge mass of boulders and smashed it upon Vajradamshtra's head. The Rakshas fell to the ground, unconscious, vomiting blood and clutching his mace to his chest. Vajradamshtra, however, soon regained consciousness. Coming before Angad, he severely struck the monkey chief in the chest with his club. Then two warriors started beating each other with their fists. As they gradually became exhausted, blood began to flow from their mouths. Then, after a brief lull, Angad uprooted a tree while Vajradamshtra took up his sword and shield. However, after fighting for some time, both heroes fell to their knees in exhaustion. Seizing this opportune moment, Angad quickly summoned his strength. He snatched Vajradamshtra's sword and sliced off his head. Upon seeing the general slain, the remnants of the Rakshasa army fearfully retreated to Lanka. Ravan next called for the Rakshas hero Akampan, saying, "You are well versed in the use of all weapons, and your eagerness for battle is second to none. Go now and exterminate the army of the monkeys. Do away with Ram and Lakshman once and for all." As Akampan approached the battlefield, his left eye began to twitch convulsively. His voice became choked up and his horses became depressed. Ignoring these evil omens, Akampan sallied forth with the foremost of Rakshas warriors, bearing their clubs, swords, chakras, spears, axes, and bows. In the gruesome encounter that followed, the dust raised by the opposing armies became so thick that friends could not be discerned from foes. Monkeys began slaying monkeys, and Rakshasas killed other Rakshasas. Men, the Dvividha, Nal, and Kumud, littered the battlefield with innumerable gore-smeared bodies of Rakshasas, and the enraged Akampan responded by routing the monkey army with their deluge of arrows. Seeing the monkey ranks scattering like clouds in the wind, Hanuman approached Akampan while others supported him from behind. Akampan sent forth showers of arrows, but Hanuman simply laughed and tore off a huge crag from a mountain peak. He rushed at Akampan, whirling the huge mass of rock around with one hand and roaring, but the Rakshas generally easily smashed the crag with his arrows. Hanuman flared with rage, and he uprooted a huge banyan tree and rushed towards Akampan. Seeing Hanuman in such a fierce aspect, smashing their chariots and the trees that stood in his path, the Rakshas soldiers began to flee. Akampan, however, stood fast as Hanuman continued rushing towards the Rakshas, shot him with 14 arrows. Still Hanuman did not waver. Hanuman closed in and crashed the giant tree on his head, causing him to fall dead on the ground, while the leaderless Rakshasas retreated to Lanka for safety. Ram, Lakshman and the monkey warriors surrounded Hanuman, blessing him with heartfelt praise. It was still before noon when Ravan heard of Akampana's demise. Hearing that yet another of his supposedly invincible generals had been killed by a band of monkeys, Ravan became greatly agitated. He called his ministers for a tour of the city's remaining fortifications. Ravan told his commander-in-chief, "O Prahasta, only you, myself, Kumbhakarna, Indrajit and Nikumba are capable of defeating the monkeys. We are now hard pressed. I want you to be the next to attack the army." Prahast replied, "O king, previously I advised you to return Sita to Ram. However, now that war has been declared, please know that I am prepared to lay down my life on your behalf." Prahasta quickly mobilized his army. Within an hour he mounted his chariot and departed for the fight. While approaching the battlefield, he observed carnivorous birds circling counterclockwise above his head. Meteors streaked across the sky while the she-jackals shrieked ominously. A squawking vulture came and perched atop his flagstaff, and cold-piercing winds blew as dark clouds showered blood upon him. His charioteer's whip repeatedly slipped from his hand, and his horse stumbled through the path, although the path was level. Perhaps the luster began to fade, but still, as the monkeys and Rakshas rode challenges toward each other, he confidently advanced toward the army of Sugriv like a moth rushing into a flame. When the fighting began, Prasta's 4 assistants, Naranta, Kumbhanu, Mahanad and Samunatta, created a great massacre in the ranks of the monkey army. Dvividha then killed Narantaka by hurling a huge mountain peak. The monkey Durmukha smashed Samunatta to death with a gigantic tree. Likewise, Jambavan hurled a huge rock that crushed Mahanada's chest, and Tara eliminated Kumbhanu with the help of a tall tree. In reply, the greatly angry Prahast released torrents of arrows, slaughtering thousands of monkeys and scattering those who remained alive. Neel, the commander-chief of the monkeys, responded by exterminating innumerable Rakshas soldiers. Soon after, Neel and Prahast came face to face. Prahast's arrows shot through Neel's body and entered earth. Still, as the Rakshas rushed toward him, Neel uprooted a huge tree and struck a severe blow. Undaunted, Prahast continued showering his arrows. When he was unable to dodge the arrows, Neel simply accepted them with closed eyes, just as a bull might receive an autumn thunder shower. Taking up another tree, Neel killed Prahasta's horses while roaring loudly, broke Rakshasa's bow. Picking up a club, Prahast jumped down from his disabled chariot. The 2 warriors began fighting hand to hand, tooth to tooth. Prahasta struck Neel on the forehead with his club, making a gash that bled profusely. Without wavering, Neel countered by striking Prahast in the chest with a tree. Also oblivious to the bow, the Rakshas commander again rushed towards Neel, who grabbed a giant rock. Then, as Prahast came close, Neel hurled the boulder upon his head, breaking it into pieces and causing Rakshasa to immediately fall down to to die. At this, the Rakshas army panicked and fled to Lanka while Ram and Lakshman congratulated Neel. When Ravan learnt of the death of his commander-in-chief, his heart became afflicted with unbearable grief. Addressing his ministers, he said, "I can no longer ignore my powerful enemies. I shall now go and personally enter the battlefield." He mounted his splendid chariot and came out of the city to fight, surrounded by his army of Rakshasas. When Ram saw the huge Rakshasa army approaching, he questioned Vibhishan about its leaders. Then, catching the sight of Ravan, Ram exclaimed, "Due to his extraordinary effulgence and prowess, it is difficult for me to look upon the Rakshas king. However, it is certainly my good fortune that Ravan has come within my view, for now I can finally vent my kept wrath." Before leaving the city, Raman ordered a large army to stay back and guard Lanka. He warned them to remain alert lest the monkeys take advantage of his absence. Coming from the city, Ravan divided the sea of monkeys in twain, while Ram and Lakshman took up their bows in anticipation. So, that moment has come when Ram and Ravan are going to face each other. We will continue our reading from here onwards. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. And just to let you know, today's Ekadashi, according to the Vaishnava calendar, is not suitable for fasting. We fast tomorrow on Vyanjali, Mahatvadashi, and Bhisham Panchak also begins tomorrow, which will last till the Ras Purnima, which is the end of the Kartik month, on the 30th of November, Monday. Hare Krishna.